I am going to example sketching the graphs of quadratic functions. I don't have a grid up. I'm going to put it. I'll set up the grid after. And for you're wondering what this is a string attached to a projector screen. Okay, for pulling it down. So I may hit it. It's just going to be there. There's no way for me to get rid of it in this room. So I'm going to example these. Several of these. This is based on this document right here. I don't have any grids. I'll set the grid up after I find the important points. I'll make a grid using this meter, using this yardstick. All right. So here are the steps. Find the vertex. The vertex is either the low point or the high point. And h is negative b over 2a. K is the matching y. Once you find that, find the y-intercept, plug in x equals 0, get the matching y. At the x-intercepts, set the quadratic equal to 0 and solve. If you get a real value solutions, plot them. And then another step, if it's easy, from the vertex, go over 1 unit each way and up a units. Okay, there will be other things that I will do to make this easier, or to create a more complete picture that can't really be explained in words. So here we go. Do h equals negative b over 2a, where a is 1, a is 1, 1x squared, b is 8, c is 7. So h equals negative 8 over, per the formula, so negative 8 over 2 times 1 equals negative 8 over 2, which is negative 4. K is going to be negative 4 squared plus 8 times negative 4 plus 7. So that's going to be 16 minus 32 plus 7, that is negative 29. Sorry, negative 9. So the vertex is negative 4, negative 9. Y-intercept. X equals 0. So y equals 0 squared plus 8 times 0 plus 7. 0 plus 0 plus 7 is 7. So the y-intercept is 0, 7. The x-intercepts. Y is 0. So that means x squared plus 8x plus 7 is 0. So that will give me, it's going to be, this one's solvable by factoring. Pair of factors of 7, half the 8 are positive 8, positive 1. Sorry, positive 7, positive 1. So x plus 7 is 0. X plus 1 is 0. So minus 7, x equals negative 7. Subtract 1, x equals negative 1. So we have negative 7, 0, and negative 1, 0. Those are my important points. So at this point, I'm going to pause this, create a grid, and plot the sketch. As you can see, I went ahead and drew a grid. I also went ahead and add these instructions to go with number 4. So first I'm going to start with the points I'm given. The vertex is the low point, negative 4, negative 9. And y-intercept is 0, 7. And my x-intercepts are negative 7, 0, and negative 1, 0. Now, from the vertex, negative 4, 9, I'm going to go over 1 each way and up a units. Well, a is 1, so I'm going to go over 1 and up a units, which is 1. So over 1, up 1. Over 1, up 1. Further, I'm also going to take advantage of the principle of symmetry, because the vertex is on a vertical line that cuts it in half, and each side's a mirror image. So the y-intercept was 4 units over y-coordinate 7. So I'm going to go 4 units over again, y-coordinate 7. So 4 units over y-coordinate 7, 4 units over y-coordinate 7. Above the 8. So, I'll do the best I can. It's no secret I'm not a very good sketcher. Okay, and that closes off that example. All right, I'm going to resume. First of all, the next example is f of x equals 2x squared minus 8x minus 10. A is 2, b is negative 8, and c is negative 10. So h equals, per this formula, negative 8 over 2 times 2, which gives me positive 8 over 4, which is 2. So k will be 2 times 2 squared minus 8 times 2 minus 10. 2 squared is 4 times 2 is 8. 8 minus 16 is negative 6 minus 10 is, actually that's minus 8. That's minus 8 minus 10 is minus 18. So my vertex is 2, negative 18. Okay, at the y-intercept, x is 0. So y will equal 2 times 0 squared minus 8 times 0 minus 10. 0 minus 0, take away 10 is negative 10. So the y-intercept is 0, negative 10. Okay, at the x-intercepts, y is 0. So 2x squared minus 8x minus 10 is 0. I'm going to take that, I'm going to factor that 2 out of all 3 terms. So x squared minus 4x minus 5 is 0, and then I will divide it off. So I end up with x squared minus 4x minus 5 still equals 0. The pair of factors in negative 5, they have to negative 4, they exist. It's x minus 5 and x plus 1. So x minus 5 equals 0. X plus 1 equals 0. Add my 5. X is 5. So that point will be 5, 0. Subtract 1, x equals negative 1. So negative 1, 0. And then later I'll do this from vertex. But first, I need to set up a coordinate grid. So I will pause for that purpose. Okay. I am going to, I'm going to go ahead and use this grid that I just set up to sketch the graph of this function. So 2, negative 18 was the vertex. And then I had 0, negative 10 as the y-intercept. And I had 5, 0 and negative 1, 0 as my x-intercepts. Now, from here, I'm also going to go over from the vertex, I'm also going to go over 1 up A units. Well, A is 2. So I'm going to go over 1 up 2 and over 1 up 2. Also, I know that this is in the steps, but I'm going to use the principle of symmetry for the y-intercept. The y-intercept was 2 over from the vertex with an x-coordinate of -10. So I'm going to go 2 over, sorry, with a y-coordinate of -10. So I'm going to go 2 over and another y-coordinate of -10. And then I'm going to put a curve through. That hopefully hits everything it's supposed to. I know that's not a very good looking curve, but it is just a sketch. So I'm going to pause here and I'm going to put up another example. All right, so here's another one. F of x equals -x squared plus 10x minus 16. So A is -1, B is 10, C is -16. So H equals, per this formula, -10 over 2 times -1. So -10 over -2 is 5. So K will equal -5 squared plus 10 times 5 minus 16. So that will be -25 plus 50 minus 16. 25 minus 16 is 9. So I have 5, 9 as my vertex. Now, x equals 0, so y will equal -0 squared plus 10 times 0 minus 16. 0 plus 0 minus 16 is -16. So it's 0, -16. At the x-intercepts, y is 0. So -x squared plus 10x minus 16 is 0. If the quadratic coefficient has a negative in front of it, factor out a negative. There are no other common factors, so we'll do -1. And the division by -1 leaves a positive x squared, a negative 10x, and a positive 16. Okay? I will then proceed to divide off that -1. So I have x squared minus 10x plus 16 is 0. So that's going to be x and x, because it's factorable. Pair of factors of 16 after -10 are -8 and -2. So I have x minus 8 equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0. Add 8, and x is 8. 8, 0. And 2. X is 2. So I have 2, 0. Okay, and then from here, I'm going to pause while I set up a grid, and then I'll finish the problem. All right, I have built a grid, and I'm going to use it to sketch the graph of this function. So the vertex is 5, 9. X equals 5, y equals 9. Okay, the y-intercept is 0, -16. And the x-intercepts are 8, 0. And 2, 0. Okay, so from the vertex, I'm going to go over 1 and up A units. That means up -1, which is really down 1. So, from the vertex, I'm going to go over 1 and down 1. And from the other way, over 1 and down 1. Okay? In addition, I'm going to use the principle of symmetry on the y-intercept. From the vertex, I was 5 units over with a y-coordinate of -16. I'm going to do the same thing. So 5 units, y-coordinate -16. All right, and then I'm going to put that curve through that will hopefully hit everything it's supposed to. Despite the fact that, again, I'm not a very good sketch artist. That's it. I'm done with that sketch. All right, here's another one. F of x is f of x is x squared minus 6x plus 13. So A is 1, B is -6, and C is 13. So H equals -6 over 2 times 1, which gives me 6 over 2, which is 3. So, plug it in. I get 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 13. 9 minus 18 plus 13. -9 plus 13 is 4. So that's going to be 3, 4. The x-intercept is, the y-intercept is x equals 0. So that's going to be 0 squared minus 6 times 0 plus 13. 0 minus 0 plus 13 is just 13. So it's 0, 13. Next step, I have x squared minus 6x plus 13 equals 0. There's no pair of factors of 13 that have the -6. So I'm going to have to use the quadratic formula. X equals -b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And by the way, when I sketch my graph, this is probably going to have to be taken out of the way. So x equals -6 plus or minus the square root of -6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 13 all over 2 times the 1. So, first, under the radical, -6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 13. 36 minus 52 is -16. Second, square root of -16 is 4i, non-real. Non-real means not graphable. So, I have gone as far as I can go without a grid. So I'm going to pause here and build a grid. By the way, I hope the fact that it's not real means it makes clear that it's not graphable. So there's no reason to continue. Once we got a non-real value during the looking for an x-intercept, because it doesn't have an x-intercept. That's what you're about to see. So 3, 4 is the vertex. The y-intercept is 0, 13. It doesn't have any x-intercepts. Okay, so our only choice from, our only easy points is from the vertex, go over 1 and up A units. So A is 1, so that means up 1. So over 1, up 1. So over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1. We're also going to use the principle of symmetry with the y-intercept. The y-intercept was 3 units over from the vertex with a y-coordinate of 13. We're going to repeat the process over the vertex. All right. And there's my sketch. I wanted to make that look more like a curve. All right. So here's example 5x squared minus 2x minus 2x minus 14. A is once again 1, B is negative 2, and C is negative 14. So H equals negative negative 2 over 2 times 1. So 2 over 2 is 1. So K equals 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 14. 1 minus 2 minus 14 is negative 15. So the vertex is 1, negative 15. The y-intercept. X equals 0, so y equals 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 14. 0 minus 14 is negative 14. So I have 0, negative 14. Okay? At the x-intercepts, y is 0, and I left the quadratic formula up for a reason. X squared minus 2x minus 14 is 0. There's no pair of factors negative 14 and out to negative 2. So we're going to have to use the quadratic formula. We're completing the square, but the quadratic formula is what I'm going to do. So x equals negative negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1, the one that you don't see, and then negative 14. All over 2 times 1. So first, under the radical. That's going to be negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 14. So that's 4. And there's actually 2 minuses here, so that's going to be a plus. And 4 times 14 is 56. So this is 60. Second, square root of 60 is, it's divisible by the perfect square 4. The division result would be 15. So that's 2 square root of 15. Third, x equals positive 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 15 over 2. Which gives me 1, both of these are divisible by 2, 1 plus or minus the square root of 15. So I have 1 minus the square root of 15, 0, and 1 plus the square root of 15, 0. Okay, that's what they make calculators for. So I'm going to box this off separately so it doesn't get mixed up with the rest. 1 minus the square root of 15 is approximately negative 2.873. and then 1 plus the square root of 15, that's approximately 4.873. So I'm going to pause here and set the grid that can hopefully fit everything. It might be ugly, but I'm going to give it a whirl. Okay, so the vertex was 1, negative 15. Y-intercept was 0, negative 14. The x-intercepts were almost to negative 3 and almost to 5. All right, and from the vertex, I'm going to go over 1 unit and up A units. A is 1. So that means I'm going to go over 1, up 1, and over 1, up 1. So over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1. All right, which also gave me the counterpoint to the mirror image of the y-intercept. So this is enough. I'm going to go ahead and put it through. All right. So, and that doesn't look like, that looks more like a V, so I'm going to round the bottom a little bit. Okay. And that one is done. Final example that I am planning on doing. F of x is negative 3x squared minus 12x minus 6. So first, A is negative 3, B is negative 12, and C is negative 6. Okay, for these purposes. So H equals negative 12 over 2 times negative 3. So positive 12 over negative 3 is, negative 6 is negative 2. And I'll plug negative in to that to get the matching K. So this gives, that's 4 times negative 3 is minus 12 plus 24 minus 6. 12 minus 6 is 6. So I have negative 2, 6. Okay. So next step, the y-intercept, x is 0. So y will equal negative 3 times 0 squared minus 12 times 0 minus 6. 0 minus 0 minus 6 is negative 6. So 0, negative 6. All right. Y-intercepts, y is 0. So negative 3x squared minus 12x minus 6 equals 0. The quadratic coefficient is negative, so definitely take out a negative. All three of these are divisible by 3, so I will take the 3 out as well. And that'll leave me negative 3x squared divided by negative 3 is positive x squared. Divide these, I get 4x. Divide these, I get positive 2. Okay? And then I'll divide off that negative 3. Still leaving me 0 on this side. Okay, so I'm going to use A, B, and C here are going to be different to use with the quadratic formula. Okay, x will equal negative 4 plus or minus 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 2, all over 2 times 1. Okay? Darken a little bit. So first, under the radical. So that's going to be 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 2. 16 minus 8 is 8. Second, square root of 8 is square root of 4, square root of 2, gives me 2 square root of 2. So, negative 4 plus or minus 2 square root of 2 over 2 gives me negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 2. That's got to be a tight squeeze. So maybe I would be better served to square root of 2. So third, I have negative 4 plus or minus 2 square root of 2 over 2, which gives me, both of these are divisible by 2, so that's negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 2. So that'll be negative 2 minus the square root of 2, 0, and 2 plus. So I'm going to have to make better use of space. So this will be negative 2 minus the square root of 2, 0. This will be negative 2 plus the square root of 2, 0. All right, I'm going to need to get decimal approximations here. So negative 2 minus the square root of 2 is about negative 3.414. 0. And then this is going to be negative 2 plus the square root of 2. And that's approximately negative 0.5858. 0. Okay, and I'm going to pause here and set up the grid. So here's my grid. Vertex is negative 2, 6. The y-intercept is 0, negative 6. And the y-intercepts were negative 3 and almost to negative 3.5. And a little bit over negative or under negative 1/2. Okay, so 2, 6, negative 2, 6 is the vertex. Now, from the vertex, we're going to go over 1 and up a units. Negative 3. So down 3. So from the vertex, I'm going to go over 1, down 3. So over 1, down 3. And then over 1, down 3. Okay, I'm also going to find the counterpart to the y-intercept. So this was 2 over with a y-coordinate of negative 6. So I'll go the other way, 2 units, y coordinate of negative 6. And then here's my curve. All right,